Alright, what's up y'all, LakerFan here. As I was about to title today's video, here to rank all the shooting badges in NBA 2K23 for Season 3, so I hope y'all enjoy. If you do, for drop a like, sub if you're new to noties, all good stuff, and like always, try to 2,000 likes. Now, if you're new to the channel, new to the series, as you can see in the bottom left corner right here, we have text color indicates Season 2 ranking, so we rank these for Season 2, and the colors that they correspond with, for instance, slippery off-ball being purple, puts it in the E tier, and so on and so forth for everything above it, and the colors that it corresponds with as well. But we're here to re-rank them for Season 3, so I hope y'all enjoy, and we'll get straight into it. Alright, so to start us off with slippery off-ball, it's going to be moving up from the E tier to the D tier, a little bit of a more usable badge now that off-ball movement has actually been patched to the point where you don't burn adrenaline every little bit that you move, any left or right motion, or just anything like that. Obviously, we know off-ball movement is a little bit more doable now. So with that comes a slippery off-ball buff as well. Not literally, but it's just more usable and more practical in that sense. But nonetheless, I still think it's a pretty bad badge. I think off-ball movement in general is plenty fine without this badge on at all. And really all this does, in my opinion, after having teammates try this out and stuff like that too, I believe all this really does at the end of the day is just helps you use the right stick more to get open and like juke people, so to say, which is such an unpractical way of using the badge. But nonetheless, like I said, it's still more usable in the sense of off-ball movement is now more practical and more doable in this year's game, now that the off-ball adrenaline has actually been patched. So we have slippery off-ball in the D tier. We won't spend too much time on the useless badges that are kind of like D and below, or even C and below for that matter. On that same note, we have comeback kids staying in the D tier as well. Seen the 2K Labs video on this, and it activates when you are down by 7 or more points. For that matter, it's a badge that a lot of people, I will say, like the top 50% of 2K players in general, probably don't want to run this badge at all for that matter. If you are someone who maybe does struggle in more situations as a team where you're down more often, or maybe you play rec with randoms and stuff like that, comeback kid could be a little bit more practical. But honestly, even if you see the badge popping up and activating, the test that 2K Labs ran on this was really pitiful, if I'm being completely honest. It didn't look very impressive as far as what it actually does to boost it. It does still boost it a little bit. They said it was about the value of about 1 attribute point for every mid-range and three-pointer of every level that you have the badge. Nonetheless though, I don't think that's that good, to be honest with you, especially with the fact that you have to be down by more than 7 points. That's kind of tough. But I guess the theory behind this would be, if you're a winner, like if you really care about winning in 2K, this is only going to activate when you truly need it to activate, sort of, kind of like I would also argue with clutch shooter, for instance, as well. But it is what it is, man. Like I said, I just don't really think comeback kid deserves that kind of respect. We have it in the D tier. Won't spend way too much time talking about it, but again, the activation of this, you have to be down by 7 or more points. Alright, and to wrap up our useless badges, we have corner specialist in the E tier and guard up in the F tier. These have still not been fixed, to my knowledge, as far as I've seen and my teammates play with, and the opponents for that matter as well, checking other people's badge loadouts and just seeing the general community feedback on this stuff. It does appear that neither of these badges still work, and I gotta say, it would be very convenient if they did. They need a fix 100%. If they have been fixed and somehow it's just slipping through me and the whole community and we just don't like notice it or see it, then more power to you, 2K, for actually addressing that. But to my knowledge, this stuff has still not been fixed, and the 2K Labs also ran the test on corner specialist. This was evident that it didn't give any boost from none to Hall of Fame. Guard up, to my knowledge of watching my teammates or opponents play with this as well, and honestly, it's just pitiful. Like, you can still just stand right in people's face, no hand up or anything like that, and even if they have the badge on, it's still no use. It's just bad. It doesn't really negate ghost contest like it should. It'd be a really good thing if it did do that, because it would stop people from allowing themselves to just play no hands up defense and actually get contests. For instance, you would just run right into them as they shoot the ball, and then you're just right below them. Simple as that. And you can still get like 10 to 12 to 15% contest, sometimes even 20s for that matter if your perimeter defense is really that elite. But nonetheless, guard up still doesn't work, and once again, corner specialist would be very ideal if it did work. This is generally a badge that I would say, I think for small guards is a tier 1. I think for wings it's a tier 2, and then for bigs it's a tier 3. So I know for the bigs out there, it's probably convenient for you because it's like, oh well, that just means it's one more tier 3 badge I don't even have to run. But again, I think a lot of bigs and locks out there would appreciate if this badge is actually good, and they would spend the tier 2 or tier 3 points on it. It's just, again, you don't see very many people utilizing this because it doesn't work to our knowledge, at least as creators. Alright, so next up, to start us off on our list of a very long B tier, we have Space Creator. This is a badge that I actually pay a lot of respect to now. I made a whole video on it individually, as well as the Mini Magician kind of mixed into that. Also, for that matter, we'll just go ahead and move Mini Magician to where it belongs as well. So we're moving 2 of these badges that were formerly C tiers into the B tier. We have a lot of them. Alright, I really could have moved all of them together. We'll talk about these when we get to them. I'll just maybe explain these 2 together because they're pretty coexisting with each other. other. So Space Creator obviously is for like hop back jump shots, or let's say spin jump shots and stuff like that too. Anything that's really of the flashy sense of doing like jump shots. And man, this playstyle is so devious. Like I said, I made a video on this if you guys want to check it out. We played against 2 people who ran Space Creator and Middy Magician at the highest level that they could for their builds, and it was freaky stuff, man. And again, Middy Magician on display with either Nut on the 2v2 tournament that I played with recently, like about a month ago, or on top of that too, even Tonic playing on his post score in our Pro-Am wager, or just Pro-Am gameplays in general. You guys can see the power of these 2 badges on display. Crazy. And I think Tonic and Nut are the best examples of anybody I've seen so far in this game. So we have really good video footage of like people utilizing this on the channel if you want to check it out, and it's a really fun playstyle to play with as well. I mean, it's cool when people can just get the ball and do stuff with it that doesn't look very similar to anything else people do in this game for that matter. But again, Space Creator on hop and spin jump shots. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I do believe Space Creator can activate for mid-range shots as well. The thing is, though, that Middy Magician says it activates on, for instance, the effectiveness of pull-up spin shots and fadeaways from the mid-range area. So let me know on the whole Space Creator versus Middy Magician debate and stuff like that. I would just say, generally, if you are of this playstyle anyway, to try and run both of them regardless, though. But again, Space Creator even still helps for creating space once again, like not literally, but it can force people to either be stunned or ankle breakered as well. It's very unlikely when you have a super low ball handle, but if you pair this with Shot Creator Takeover between the ankle breaking shots, then also run Space Creator, that stuff can go hard 100%. And again, it's a very niche playstyle, but it's so good. It's so efficient, and I understand the mid-range game is kind of dead in this year's game as well, but I disagree entirely. In this year's game, in my opinion, defense is so good that a bucket is a bucket, and whatever can get that is really just efficient enough for me. So that's how I feel about it. And again, I have these both in the B tier now. All right, so next up we have Clutch Shooter and Volume Shooter also going up from the C tier to the B tier. These are actually badges that were also on display very recently on our gameplay as well. So for instance, in the Joe wager that we did on the 5v5, it's still on the channel if you want to check that out and you haven't watched it as well, by the way. But Clutch Shooter was on display. I'll put it like that. Apollo hitting a game winner, that was so cool. And we talked about this before the event actually, or before the matchup, I should say. We debated, and literally very highly debated, and I was the one that was vouching for this the hardest, for everybody to take Green Machine off and put things like Clutch Shooter and Volume Shooter on. And in this situation, Tonic had Hall of Fame Clutch Shooter, Apollo had Hall of Fame, then moved it to Silver, and then we had IQ with also Clutch Shooter on, AK was using Volume Shooter on Hall of Fame, I think Tonic was also using Volume Shooter because we expected a lot of shots to go up, and the problem with Green Machine, and we'll get there actually right now, and we'll just go ahead and put it there. The problem with Green Machine is that I truly believe it's a little bit of a extremely front-running and snowball badge. I think like really it belongs in the B tier, yes, because it's still a very good badge, and the significance of the shot increase of your rate that it'll go in definitely goes up extremely as it keeps on piling up. But realistically, if you're playing against really good people, or for instance maybe just in general you're not the greatest shooter in the world either, it's going to be a tough badge for you to utilize at the highest level. You have to hit like very much so chains of greens over and over and over again, and as soon as you miss the shot you have to start this back over again, and it doesn't even take effect to your second shot that you take as far as like greening it as well. So my debate between this was that Clutch Shooter and Volume Shooter being tier 1s, the fact that they both are, and then Green Machine being a tier 2, it was much more expensive to run between the two of than for instance the two of these right here. So we just had the whole team literally just take Green Machine off. Nobody on the court had it, especially me because I don't have any shooting build either, but you guys get what I'm saying. Everything between our point guard, shooting guard, our lockdown, and our center, we're not running Green Machine in that whole entire thing, and they were shooting the best I've ever seen those dudes shoot. All of them, between the point guard to especially Apollo at the shooting guard, and then even Tonic as well, IQ with lights out as well, and again, no Green Machine was active on our whole team throughout that whole thing. So I think that was plenty of example for me to see that Green Machine is a little bit of an overrated badge, and I don't want to put it anywhere in the A tier. I don't think it's really belonging to be in the C tier though, but nonetheless, again, Clutch Shooter activates, I believe, late third quarter and all of fourth quarter as long as the game is close. Don't know what the score margin has to be completely honest with you, but I do know that it's definitely going to come down to some game winners, or in general, Pro-Am games are pretty tight. Like, they stay pretty close for the most part. There's not always a lot of blowouts. It's just something that you generally don't see too much. It can happen, especially in a series as well, but nonetheless, my whole point is that games definitely come down to the wire, and Clutch Shooter is very important if you ask me. It's actually the only badge that if you look at it, it says a significant boost or a large boost, I think is what it says if I look at it right here. Yeah, it receives a large boost. It does say during the final moments of the fourth quarter. I have seen this activate for my teammates in the third quarter, like they actually have sent me clips and showed me that it is activating late third quarter, so I don't know how true their description is of this or anything like that. But nonetheless, again, I think both these badges are really good. Volume Shooter, because we haven't talked about this very much so far yet, as far as like if you're a point guard or a shooting guard or even a very shot taking big man, like for instance with Tonic, where he takes a lot of the mid-range and 3-point shots and stuff like that, and they definitely pile up, this is a badge that's giving you progressive like boost to your ratings, and it can't be impeded by anything. And not to mention, Clutch Shooter only pops up late in the games. Green Machine only works when it's in succession of other greens, and as soon as you miss, you break the chain of it. Volume Shooter is literally just the more shots you get up, the more reliable your jump shot becomes. It's a really, really good badge if you ask me. I think it's very underrated. I was debating putting this in the A tier. It just depends on your build. Because again, I would say for like point guards, it might even be A tier, to be completely honest with you. I would definitely put it up there with like blinders and stuff like that, especially considering it's a tier 1 badge for you. So it's extremely cheap, and you can definitely run it at a high level easily. So I vouch for this badge really hard. All right, next up we have Deadeye. This is going to be moving down to the C tier from the B, and I just think I was overrating this badge just a little bit. To be fair, it's very hard for a lot of people in this game, whether you're 6'9" or 6'1", 6'3", whatever the case may be, to run all 4 of their tier 3 badges. You'll probably start to see a lot more Deadeye being run after this season, where now people are getting a lot of the double core badge loadouts where you can get the 2 shooting with no finishing. And what that means is the builds that have around 24 3-pointer, like a lot of meta builds have, between the 92 3-pointer and like the 78 mid-range builds that pretty much everybody makes if you're a point guard or like a super tall 6'9" that's an offensive PG. Long story short, what I'm getting at here is because people have 24 shooting badge points, they eventually are able to run 3 tier 3s. But generally what people are leaving out is Deadeye. They usually run on a point guard, Agent 3, Blinders, and Limitless, or on a wing, maybe they can run 3 of them between Deadeye, Limitless, and Blinders, but then they still have to run Agent 3 in a tier 2. They don't have enough points because they still want to run Green Machine and stuff like that too, so they just kind of cut out Deadeye out of the picture. So I don't want to 100% vouch for this badge being quote-unquote bad. It's just that people clearly show their bias towards, for instance, Blinders, Limitless, and Agent 3, which, to be fair, they are extremely good badges. For instance, they are literally some of the top tier badges right here as well. But my whole point with it is that it's hard for people to be able to afford Deadeye. So for instance, I think what's actually taking Deadeye down a little bit on this list is the fact that it is a tier 3 for nearly every build in the game. That's what really the problem becomes, if you ask me. But I can give you guys this feedback. A lot of the guards that I play with, they just think the badge doesn't really do a whole lot for them when they do activate it, because they'll try and run Deadeye and Blinders together. 2K Labs also made a video showcasing the activation of Deadeye and Blinders, and that Blinders activates way more than Deadeye does. Not to mention, Deadeye obviously is something where you're getting the contest on you no matter what, and it just helps you make contested shots. Blinders is dropping the contest that you get on your shots, which means that it will obviously then not speed your jump shot up quite as much for the contest. And let's backtrack on that because it's a very complicated thing to explain. If you get contested in 2K23, it does speed your jump shot up by quite a bit, and the problem with that becomes if you have Blinders, obviously it's negating the contest that you get on the shot in general. So it can lead it to either being open or even wide open for that matter too sometimes, and obviously dropping the percentage contest between if maybe it was supposed to be like a 12 if you didn't have Blinders on, but then because you have it on, maybe it's like a 5 or something like that. Just keep that in mind. But Deadeye, like I said, doesn't drop the contest percentage that you get on it. It just helps you make through contest a lot better. So honestly, I think the badge could be slept on. It's just, again, not a lot of people have enough badge points to run this, combined with obviously the must-haves between Agent 3 and Limitless, and then Blinders as well. So we'll see definitely a whole lot more about this badge as Season 3 unfolds, and when you get like a lot of people running like the level 40 rewards, they get the double shooting badge core, and then boom, now they can run all 4 tier 3s. We'll definitely see more of that. Alright, so next up we have Catch and Shoot, which is also staying in the B tier. I would debate that maybe you could move this to the A tier depending on your build. Obviously, if you're a spot up, I would definitely debate that it's in the A tier, maybe even the S for that matter as well, because the more spotting up you do, the more relevant it becomes, obviously. So honestly, for the sake of this video, I guess let's just impulsively move this to the A tier, because we're talking about the specialist factor of it. Obviously, it's hard to say though, because generally I like to talk about the power of the badge itself and not overrate the circumstances too much. So for instance, like Volume Shooter for a point guard would be an A tier badge 100%, but because I'm trying to judge between all types of playstyles combined and just talk about how good the badge is specifically, I try and just kind of hit the middle ground of everything and just talk about how good the badge is on its own. And actually, you know what? Because I just looked at what the A tier badges even are, nah, Catch and Shoot doesn't equal the power of the A tier badges. We're gonna leave this in the B. I know I'm doing a lot of flip-flopping and stuff. You can't really do that with these videos, but it's okay. I want to take you guys inside the mind of where I'm at with this badge. It's so like back and forth because I really do believe it could fit anywhere between the B tier and the A tier. Doesn't really deserve to be anywhere other than that though, between S or C or anything like that. But Catch and Shoot, it's just such a debatable badge because like obviously its playstyle stuff correlates so heavily. Like whether you're a popper big man or a spot up on the lockdown, I would say those are the only two like playstyles that you really spend the badge points on. Point guards don't run it. If you're playing like kind of a 3-out ISO drive and kick sort of play style, the ball's probably hit like in way too many different people's hands. So if you're truly like spreading the ball between all 3 people, I highly doubt that people are actually running catch and shoot as a quote-unquote 6'9" point guard just because they don't have the ball in their hands constantly. Long story short, the badge helps you shoot off catch and shoots. It's literally as simple as that. It doesn't really require that much explanation or anything like that, but it's hard to put this badge anywhere specifically. Let me know where you guys would put catch and shoot, and it's probably going to be very biased by your playstyle. I'm sure a lot of point guards would be like, it don't even matter. It's a C tier to me. Whereas like spot ups can be like A tier, S tier. It's a must-have badge for me. I understand that. That's why I'm just trying to talk about the power of the badge. And obviously, in which case, we're here to talk about a lot of certain A tiers. And I'm gonna be real with you, I don't think that catch and shoot really like powers up to some of these A tiers that are in here. For instance, we have blinders, we have claymore, and then we'll have also another one as well. We'll get to that in a second. But for blinders, again, we already talked about this a pretty good bit when debating between it and Deadeye. This is going to drop the percentage contest that people even get on you from the sides and your peripherals, which when you pair this with fading and how like really necessary fading is from a point guard's perspective this year, it really is a nasty badge. I mean, just in general, the side contests, they really don't do a whole lot. I will say, I wish blinders like would stop people from speeding up your jump shots just because they're behind you on crabs. Crabs have become a much harder thing for people to do this year because of the speeding up of your jump shot. Just because someone is behind you and they call it an open instead of wide open, it's a little bit problematic, but oh well, it is what it is. Anyway, for blinders, really great badge, belongs in the A tier. It's generally a tier 3 for literally every build though. I believe if you go 7 foot and above, blinders becomes a tier 2 and agent becomes like a tier 1 as well. So being 7 foot, like a stretch big, is so underrated this year, but nobody makes them because again, 6'9s are just the absolute meta as far as like being a big, and people don't really make stretch bigs anymore in the park or anything like that, especially for 2s. But nonetheless, I think those 7 footers, the fact that you can capitalize off the blinders and agent 3 being tier 1 and tier 2 is really cool. You can also go min wingspan on a 7 footer and still get a 92 3-pointer for gold limitless and gold agent 3, gold blinders, all that stuff as well. Or even 89 would be good enough for that as well. But nonetheless, anyway, blinders, really good badge. Claymore, the more you are spotted up and standing still for a long time, the better this badge becomes. I tested this the best in the real player percentage mode that they had in the theater, while me and Zeke, I loaded up on like with him on his KD build. It's like a 6'11" that has 92 3-pointer, and long story short, what that build was able to like kind of display at the best ability was Claymore. So with that real player percentage court, he was not able to hit shots very willingly or very consistently at all unless he was spotted up for a super long amount of time. When he was absolutely money with that stuff. So the real player percentage definitely allowed us to test some badges like that, like between Claymore. I don't think corner specialist, he was running it and it didn't really show very much like power between shooting corner shots and top of the key shots at all. So I wouldn't, like I said, that was probably my best example of corner specialist still not being fixed. Nonetheless though, with Claymore, it was very obvious, and you can even see this when it comes to real like timing and stuff like that as well, even being on in the regular game modes. I mean, Claymore is a really good badge. The longer you are stand still, the more like automatic your jump shot becomes. Anyway, moving along to the next badge, we have Amped staying in the B tier as well. This was something that, once again, if you're talking about just point guards, you could probably debate that this is in the A tier. Again, it's just a tough badge to really talk about. I'll put it like this. If you asked a point guard what they want more between blinders or Amped, they're going to say blinders 10 times out of 10. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, Amped is more of an accessory badge if you ask me. It is a tough one for them to play without though. I will say that much. It's probably the best B tier badge for any point guard in this list. I mean, a lot of them are very much so accessory badges between clutch shooter, volume, middy, space creator. Even green machine, you could argue, is a little bit more of an accessory badge than a necessity, to be completely honest with you. And again, catch and shoot, point guards wouldn't really run. So Amped is probably the best B tier PG badge that there is in here. And I'm just putting it like this because honestly, for spot ups and stuff like that too, it's not really necessary. Tonic maybe debated putting it on bronze just because with his super tall 7-foot plus builds, he has to run up the court super hard. And then with our press break, sometimes he ends up with the ball, whether it's on the hash or in the corner when he fills back in, and he needs to shoot the shots. It's going to be tough if he doesn't like put those ones up, but at the end of the day, he is a little bit low on his stamina when he's running up the court like that. So honestly, Amped is something that maybe you could put on a decent level if you're a lockdown or a big, but for a PG, you probably want this at a pretty good level, like between gold or Hall of Fame. Alright, so now we have the last two shooting badges, and we're going to keep them exactly where they were. We have Limitless staying in the A tier, Agent 3 staying in the S tier. The Limitless is maybe debatable. I know a lot of point guards are probably watching this video and you're like, you know, you're a pick and roll PG in Pro-Am playing with an inside big man, and you're like, Limitless range is literally S tier for me. What are you even talking about, LakerFan? Well, again, there's not only one playstyle in the game, and really you can make the argument that a lot of park players this year, or even just ISO players in general, do not even need limitless range at all. Whether it's for like 5-out limitless, I will say it's nice to have 100% in Pro-Am if you do plan to run 5-out, but you could live without it. Same with like in park for ISO, you don't need limitless. Same with anything that has to do with not running pick and roll. If you don't run pick and roll, you probably don't need limitless range. Simple as that. So especially on top of the fact that, once again, bigs, yes, you could probably utilize this, but let's be realistic. Can you even get limitless range on a decent level? If you're a stretch big, you need at least 85 3-pointer to even get this on silver. Running it on bronze feels a little bit overkill, and be real with you, like to spend 5 badge points on your tier 3 like loadout and stuff too, which probably means that you can't run any catch and shoot. It does become a little bit annoying, the fact that you would then have to spend 5 of your tier 3 badge points on limitless bronze, versus catch and shoot could literally be gold probably with your 3-point level at that point. So long story short, what I'm trying to get at here, limitless range is a very point guard heavy badge, yet point guards would not be able to play without it. You cannot utilize pick and roll with no limitless range. That's how I feel. I've tried playing with a couple of people between Zeke on his new builds or Kitchen on his new builds as well, stuff like that. Any point guard that doesn't have limitless range, you try and work pick and roll with it, it is a pain, man. It really, really is difficult. So I believe it belongs to the A tier for that reason. I will say though, if you're a point guard or anybody that does a lot of just running and shooting, whether it's ISO and you're shooting at the top of the key and you just do even a quick stop, like even if you do a stop and go and you just stop and shoot the ball, or whether you fade, whether you do anything of that nature from the top of the key, the wings, even fading to the corner, Agent 3 is the best shooting badge in the game, debatably the best badge in the game entirely. I think the things that you could make a debate for it would probably be glove, and then for playmaking, maybe quick first step. It's hard to say though. Agent 3's power is really unbelievable, man. Again, you hit at a ridiculous rate when it comes to the fades. You obviously are even still enhanced when it comes to your stop and goes and just the quick stop shooting in general. The problem is that quick stop shooting is very hard this year. It's a lot slower than it has been in past, and in general it makes it so this badge is even more dependent upon too, because you have to fade in a lot of situations if you are a point guard utilizing screens, or even if you're someone who does like hop backs or walk backs, or even just, like I said, anything of the basic nature of running as a point guard and shooting the ball. Agent 3 is that badge 100%. So this belongs to the S tier, obviously, and I think it belongs in a tier of its own when it comes to these shooting badges. That's why we have things like Blinders, Limitless, and Claymore in the A tier, a lot of B tiers, and then Deadeye all on its own in the C tier, which debatably could maybe even move up to the BA as well. So I think shooting badges are very like top heavy. As you can see, like there are some really good ones between Agent, Blinders, and Limitless. These are the 3 best badges in the game if you ask me when it comes to shooting. Claymore debatably fits in for the spot ups as well. Then you have a lot of accessory badges. A lot of the B tiers are kind of just the mids, where it's like you could live without them, but it's nice to be able to run them. And then also you have the really bad ones between Slippery, Comeback Kid, Corner Specialist, and Guard Up, where they're really just, I think like shooting has the most broken badges in any category. There's just a lot of them that do not work between like literally 2 of them right here, and Comeback Kid should probably be a little bit more influential if you ask me. And then Slippery Off Ball, I don't know how you ever get this badge to be good. I'm gonna be real with you, I don't know if there's a world where Slippery Off Ball ever enters like a C tier and above in any 2K that I'll ever play, but nonetheless, that's all for the video. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, drop a like, sub if you're new to noties, all that good stuff, and like always, try to win 2,000 likes. If you made it to the end of the video, put shot or put sharp in the comment search parts all the way through. But anyway, appreciate you guys watching these tier list videos. It's season 3 and they're still doing really good. So if you want to go back and check out the finishing, the defense, or the playmaking, feel free to do that as well. Dropped it the last 3 days before this. Anyway, that is all. If you guys want me to drop a takeover tier list, you could definitely put a comment down here as well. I'm probably not going to do it unless you guys ask for it though. I do have a lot of different opinions that I could probably put on display in that one, where a lot of my opinions from what we dropped in season 2 has changed quite a bit, but I don't want to spam the takeover ones too hard. If you want to see that, let me know. If you don't, feel free to just not even comment, and I probably won't make the video unless a lot of people ask for it. But anyway, that's all for the vid. Hope you all enjoyed. And on that, Titties, man, peace.